Hello there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. And today I'm coming to you with my September wrap up, and it's also very overdue and I'm very behind on videos, so I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to combine this video with my autumn TBR, which I was supposed to post in mid-September, but here we are. Also, I just literally a few hours ago got my hair cut. She took off too much, so my hair is really short and I am adjusting to it. So if you hate it, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But also, this is what I look like now. Until my hair grows. It's not that it's bad, it's a little bit shorter than I wanted. Let's get into the video because I feel like I'm gonna ramble on for ages about unimportant stuff. So yeah, like I said, today's video, we're gonna do my September wrap up, and I'm combining this with the autumn TBR partially because I'm very behind on videos. And the reason why I'm very behind on videos is because I was away for half of September. So there we go. And therefore, I also did not read very much. I barely read anything in the entire 2 weeks that I was away. How many books have I read in September, you ask? 3 books. I read 3 books in September, but as usual, when I do my wrap-up videos, what I do is I go through my stats on Storygraph, then I go through every single book I read and what I rated them, and then I talk about the books that I have more to say about. And you know, if I'm mentioning a book in a different video, I probably won't review it properly in this video, and that's going to be the case because yeah, one of the books I read is for an episode of TBR Tackle that I'm currently working on and should be with you soon, I hope. Like I said, in the month of September, I finished 3 books. I read a total of 1,477 pages, and my average time to finish a book was 11 days. And then in terms of the moods, I had 2 tense books, 2 emotional, 2 adventurous, 1 reflective, 1 lighthearted, and 1 funny. In terms of the pace, all of the books I read this month were medium paced. And for page number, I read 1 book that was between 300 and 499 pages, and 2 books that were over 500 pages. And then in terms of the genre, I had 2 fantasy books, and then I had one which was like magical realism / contemporary. For format, all the books I read were in print, and they were all books that I physically owned, so that's good. And for the ratings, I had an average rating of 3.33 because I had 2 3-stars and 1 4-star rating. So yeah, that's the very quick little stats portion. I'm only going to talk about 2 books if I'm being honest, because one of the books I read is for a TBR Tackle video, the one I'm currently working on. So in the month, I finally finished the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. These are books 5 and 6 in the Throne of Glass series, which most people read as a tandem because they actually take place at the same time, but they follow different characters in different parts of the world. So a lot of people read them in this tandem format, and it's not exactly like swapping between each chapter. You can find on Reddit these breakdowns of when to read which book and how many chapters to read and so on. So yeah, I did the tandem read. It was my first time ever doing the tandem, and I have to say I enjoyed it. I'm going to kind of review them together, although I will tell you I rated Tower of Dawn 3 stars and Empire of Storms 4 stars. In terms of the actual tandem experience, I think it was quite fun and it's really interesting. I think it's something that you don't do very often because how many opportunities do you really have to do that with a series? So yeah, it's quite fun to do that. However, like I said, Tower of Dawn is just not really as interesting of a book for me personally. It's kind of an expansion of the world, but you know, at that point we're in book 6. So it's like, why are we expanding the world in book 6 when book 7 is the finale, you know? It does feel a little bit like, what's the point? And obviously this is all spoiler free. It does feel weird, and I think just in terms of the actual plot of that book, it's not the most interesting. Whereas Empire of Storms, that one also I think is a little bit slow moving, but it's because there are so many moving parts. But in comparison to book 4, Queen of Shadows, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and definitely my favorite book in the series, I feel like Empire of Storms is definitely not as intense, I want to say. It's a weird one, and it's hard to talk about because obviously I don't want to spoil anything. But overall, I did enjoy doing the tandem read, still prefer Empire of Storms. And if you don't know what Throne of Glass is all about, it basically follows our main character, Selena Sarathian. She's 18 years old, she's an assassin who has been imprisoned in the salt mines of Endovier for the last year, and she basically gets approached by the prince to come to the castle and join this competition to become the king's champion, which is basically like the king's personal assassin, but it's full of fantasy and it's got a little bit of mystery, especially in the earlier books, a lot of intrigue. We get a little bit of romance, and I love it. I love it so much. I know that maybe I sound a little bit negative, but it's just these 2 books are not my favorite. I think they're kind of the weakest books in the series, in my personal opinion. Like books 1 to 4 love those books. I gave most of them 5 stars. Books 5 and 6, they're just a little bit of a letdown for me. And I'm really excited to get to Kingdom of Ash at some point, but it is a chunker. So we'll see if that happens before the end of the year. But yeah, those were like the main books that I read in the month. It was getting towards when my trip was going to be, and I was like, I need to just power through these because I'm not taking these 2 600-page books with me on holiday. That's not happening. So yeah, then I ended up reading them really quickly at the end, which is also kind of the way that Sarah J Maas writes. The last 200 pages typically are pretty wild. And then the other book I read was The Husbands by Holly Gramazio, which I'm not going to get into because it's going to be in a whole video. You're going to hear all about it in detail there. That's all for the wrap up. And now let's get into the autumn TBR, even though we are halfway through October. And I don't know if I'm going to stick to this, but it's fine. If not, these are just kind of little recommendations for you for potential things that you might want to read during the autumn season. I've broken this down into little categories. So my first category is for books that have witchy vibes. And I've only got 2. The first one I have is an oldie. It's Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. This is the first book in the Witches of Thistle Grove series, which I think are like interconnected little witchy fantasy rom-coms. And I've been meaning to read this forever, but I just have not got around to it. But I do have it on my Kindle. And I really hope I love this because I love the covers of the series. It has the most beautiful covers. So yeah, if I do, then I can buy all 5 of them. I think there are 5. I'm pretty sure, based on my memory, this follows this girl who has had a really bad breakup with this guy, and I think she wants to curse him. And then this girl comes into the picture. So yeah, these 2 women meet, and they're both witches, and then they're both kind of working together to bring down this guy. But while they're working together, they start to grow feelings for each other. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I've been meaning to read it for ages, and I personally really love the book The X-Hex by Erin Sterling, and I feel like they came out at a similar time, so maybe they will have similar vibes in like the campy, like hocus pocus feel of a witchy rom-com, which is what I really want and struggle to find. That's the vibe. So hopefully this one fulfills that. The next one that I've got is the sequel to Serpent and Dove, which is Blood and Honey. I read Serpent and Dove last summer, and I surprisingly loved it. I was not expecting to love it because it's a young adult and it came out years ago, and I had been meaning to read it for such a long time that I kind of thought maybe I had outgrown it, but I ended up having the best time. I flew through that book. It's like 500 pages. I flew through it in 2 days, and I was working. Like, I just could not stop reading in all of my spare time. And so this is the second book in the trilogy, and it basically follows our main characters Lou and Reed. Lou is a witch. Reed is a witch hunter. Their paths cross. They end up having to get married, even though in theory they hate each other. But Reed does not know that Lou is a witch, so she's trying to like hide that from him, and he's like trying to hunt her down at the same time. Oh, it's so fun. If you enjoyed The Crimson Moth, but you didn't love it, I would recommend Serpent and Dove because I think it is better than The Crimson Moth, in my opinion. I read both of them last year, and I much preferred Serpent and Dove. Hopefully, I'll actually get to Blood and Honey because I've been saying for some time that I was going to read it, and I haven't. I really need to actually just finish that whole trilogy, but I am very bad at finishing series, it turns out. Those are my Witchy Vibes books that I want to read in the month of October. No, not in the month of October, in the autumn. Actually, I should probably prioritize witchy books for October though, to be fair. My next little segment is called Cozy Core. So these are going to be our cozy fantasy books. So first of all, we have the 3rd book in the Legends and Lattes series by Travis Baldree, which is Brigands and Bread Knives. This is coming out in November, and I have an arc of it, and I've had it for quite a while, like maybe a month or 2, and I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm so excited. I can't really remember what it's about, but I know that it's like actually a sequel, whereas Legends and Lattes came out first, and then a prequel came out afterwards, and I preferred Legends and Lattes to Bookshops and Bone Dust, and I really just wanted like a sequel to Legends and Lattes, and we're getting it. And I think the characters from Bookshops and Bone Dust are going to appear in this one, and I'm so excited. If you don't know what Legends and Lattes is, it's a cozy fantasy book following our main character. I want to say her name's Viv, and she's an orc, but she kind of wants to leave her old life behind and just open up a cafe and have a grand old time. And it's just very cozy. It's like quite a quiet book, as in like the plot is not super heavy. It's high fantasy, low stakes, I think is what like the tagline is. It's just fun. It's really nice. It's cozy. It's sweet. I enjoyed it. Speaking of, I'm actually currently reading the next one, which was on my TBR, which is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which is also going to be in the same video as The Husbands. I'm almost done with this one. And this is another cozy fantasy pick. This basically follows our main character, Grace. She is a perfumer living in this town. She's kind of got a little bit of a difficult past, which we find out more about throughout the book. And it also follows follows this guy called Stephen, who's a paladin, which is kind of like a knight, but they like are specifically chosen by a specific god. So his god actually died 3 years before the start of this book, and so he's kind of just been surviving for the past 3 years and not really like living. And Grace and Stephen's paths cross, and a little romance blooms between them, but also there's this sort of like intrigue aspect because there are some murders happening in this town, and so Stephen's kind of trying to figure it out a little bit, and there's a trial involved, just in like a court trial. I am really enjoying this. I don't want to get into too much detail because like I said, it's going to be in a vlog, but what I will say is this does also have some slightly horror elements, which I was not anticipating, and they're a little bit gross, but otherwise having a really good time. It's very sweet, it's cozy, I love their romance, and look at the cover, like that's very autumnal. And the last for my cozy core is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea by Rebecca Thorne. Is that her name? It is. Look at me go. And again, this is about two characters wanting to open up a bookshop that serves tea. And basically one of them is kidnapped by an assassin, and then they decide, okay, enough of that, let's go leave and open up this bookshop slash tea shop. Sounds like a cozy, fun time. So yeah, that's the last of my cozy core books. Next we have one singular thriller, and it's actually a young adult thriller because I don't love thrillers, but I think young adult thrillers can be really fun, especially when they're written by Maureen Johnson, who wrote the Truly Devious series, which I have really enjoyed. And last year, I think, she came out with a book called Death at Morning House, and I still haven't read it, even though I planned to read it last year, and I didn't. But this basically takes place on, I think, on an island, and there's this house called Morning House, and essentially this rich family lived there years ago, like 100 years ago, and 2 of the children in that family died, and it was like very publicly reported. And so our main character goes to like, I think do like ghost tours or something on that little island at Morning House, and maybe the killer has returned. I think that that's the synopsis, but I don't actually know. Maybe I should actually do my research before I film these videos, but that would be too much work. No, I'm right, that is the plot. I am so good. Moving on, we've got some fantasy. So I have one series that is a priority for this autumn because I read the first book years ago now and I loved it. And have I continued on the series? No. I would like to, in the next few months, read the entire Mistborn trilogy. So that's The Final Empire, The Will of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. I need to read these. I read the first one in 2022. And actually, no, I tried to read the second one in 2023, but it was not at a good time for me to be reading that. I could not focus, so I put it down. I was always planning to come back to it. This needs to happen because it's ridiculous. It's basically set in this world where there's magic using metals, and not everyone can use this magic, and a lot of people can only like use one metal, but you have a few people who are called Mistborn who can control all of the metals. Not control, they can use all of the metals and use the different powers that the metals give you. There's this conspiracy to kill the Lord Ruler who's evil, and this like ragtag group of people trying to kill the Lord Ruler. And yeah, it is actually such a good time. I loved it, and I need to continue on because it's a problem. I need to finish this goddamn series because there's so many other Brandon Sanderson books that I would like to read, and I can't get to them until I've read Mistborn. So, well, Mistborn era 1. So yeah, that needs to happen. Is it gonna happen though? We'll see. We will see. Only time will tell. All right, moving on to our last category. This is Romantasy because I feel like I always try to read Romantasy in the autumn, and like oftentimes I don't enjoy it, but I'm trying. I want to find Romantasy that I like. It's out there. I know it is. I've got a few on my radar. So firstly, I recently bought Quicksilver by Callie Hart while I was away because look at that flop. You do not get that flop in England at all. So yeah, I wanted the floppy North American paperback, so I bought it. And then my friend said, by the way, you might hate it. So I kind of have to read this to see what my opinion is on it. And I know that the next one is coming out in November or December. I can't remember exactly. I should read this at some point. Don't know what it's about. I know that it's fae. That's all I know. That's one of the Romantasy books on my radar. And then I also have to read Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This is a dragon romantasy, which I've owned since last year. Only last year. It hasn't been too long, but the sequel recently came out and I still haven't read it, and I really want to. I think it's going to be a good time. And actually, I will be reading this for a video that I'm currently working on. Can you guess what the theme is? I don't know if you can. I'm going to be reading this like right after I finish Paladin's Grace. So yeah, this one's happening. It's not just on my radar, it's happening. And then I can tell you more about it when I know. And then the last one I have is one which I don't actually know the plot of. I've heard the plot described so many times, but it's one that just does not stick in my mind. It has the most beautiful cover in the world. I want to enjoy it so much that I can buy it because I have it on my Kindle, but I really want the actual physical copy because it's beautiful. And that book is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Uru. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And I don't know what this is about, but I'm going to read you the synopsis. It says, in a world ruled by the stars, cruel and merciless gods that watch over the world, Alara has been cursed by fate. A prophecy that promises that she will fall for a star, and it will kill them both. But when one descends to wreak havoc on Alara's kingdom, she is forced to flee into the arms of her enemy in the neighboring country. As she learns more about her own magic and the depth of the star's deceit, she finds herself also learning more about the country she takes refuge in, and the enemy prince forced to train her into a weapon. Something dark brews within her, a power made of night and shadows that begs to be broken free. Okay, that sounds so fun. I'm intrigued. I hope I love it. Anyway, sorry for I feel like I'm in a weird mood today, so I don't even know what half these books are about, but there you go. That's my autumn TBR. We'll see if it happens. And those were the 3 books that I read in September. That's all that I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. And please let me know some of the books on your autumn TBR down below. I would love to know. But if you don't have anything else to say and you want to leave me a comment, leave me a star emoji down below. Specifically, I enjoy the sparkly one, so you could use that one if you would like, or just any star to let me know that you made it all the way to the end. Or if you don't know what to say and you want to leave me a comment, then I know you're here. That's all I have, so I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!